Hey movie lovers! Welcome back to Globewise Entertainment, your go-to spot for everything movies, entertainment, and Hollywood secrets. Today we're diving into some of the most shocking banned and censored films from the 1980s that you can now watch freely, uncut, and without any restrictions. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss out on our exclusive lists, deep dives, and behind-the-scenes stories. Alright, grab your popcorn and get ready. Here are 14 censored 80s movies now streaming without restrictions. Let's jump in. 1. The Evil Dead, 1981. In the early 1980s, horror fans were shaken by a film that was as raw and relentless as the chainsaw wielded in its final act, The Evil Dead. Directed by a young Sam Raimi on a shoestring budget, the film followed 5 college students who unwittingly unleashed demonic forces while vacationing in a remote cabin in the woods. With its unflinching gore, disturbing visuals, and a now iconic scene involving a possessed forest, The Evil Dead was quickly slapped with bans and censorship in countries like the UK, where it became one of the most infamous titles on the video nasties list. The film was lambasted by critics for its graphic violence but quietly gained a cult following, fueled by bootleg VHS tapes and whispered midnight screenings. What made The Evil Dead stand out wasn't just the blood, it was the inventiveness. Raimi's creative camera work, Bruce Campbell's intense performance as Ash, and the DIY special effects turned it into a landmark of indie horror. Fans loved it not despite its excesses but because of them. Now, over 4 decades later, The Evil Dead is no longer lurking in the shadows of censorship. The once banned horror juggernaut is freely streaming on platforms like Tubi, Plex, and even YouTube in some regions, uncut, unfiltered, and just as terrifying as ever. What was once forbidden is now celebrated. The Evil Dead lives again, and this time it's everywhere. 2. The Driller Killer, 1979. Once whispered about in hushed tones among horror fans, The Driller Killer was the stuff of urban legend in the early 80s. With a title as blunt as its infamous weapon of choice, the film was yanked from shelves across the UK and labeled a video nasty for its shocking violence and psychological descent into madness. Directed by and starring Abel Ferrara, this gritty, grimy snapshot of a struggling New York artist losing his grip became a lightning rod for censorship debates. Its grainy visuals and raw energy struck a nerve, not just with viewers, but with authorities eager to make an example. But times have changed. Today, the same film that was once banned in multiple countries is now freely streaming, its cult legacy intact. What was once forbidden is now a curious relic of both horror history and censorship hysteria, available to all who dare to drill into its dark, pulsing core. 3. Cannibal Farox, 1981. Once banned in over 30 countries, now streaming without restrictions. Known internationally as Make Them Die Slowly, Cannibal Farox is one of the most infamous exploitation films of the 1980s. Directed by Umberto Lenzi, this Italian horror shocker was part of the notorious cannibal boom of the late 70s and early 80s, a genre built around sensational violence, jungle settings, and moral collapse. The plot follows a group of Americans venturing into the Amazon rainforest to debunk the myth of cannibalism. But what starts as an academic expedition quickly descends into chaos, gore, and brutal retribution. The film showcases savage tribal justice, graphic torture scenes, and disturbing animal cruelty that pushed the boundaries of cinema and got it banned in countries including the UK, Australia, and Norway. At the time, Cannibal Farox was labeled the most violent film ever made. It became a staple on the UK's video nasties list and remained banned or heavily censored for decades. Critics decried it as vile and inhumane. Cult horror fans praised it as unflinching and raw. Today, the uncut version is freely available on several niche horror streaming sites and public domain platforms. While its content remains controversial, the film has taken on new life as a cult artifact, a relic from a time when cinema pushed every conceivable limit. Whether you view it as trash cinema or a daring social commentary on colonial arrogance, Cannibal Farox is no longer hidden behind bans. It's streaming freely and ready to shock a whole new generation. 4. Faces of Death, 1978. 4. Faces of Death, 1978. The film that shocked a generation. In the late 1970s and well into the 80s, few films provoked as much controversy and raw curiosity as Faces of Death. Though technically released in 1978, it gained most of its infamy throughout the 1980s home video boom, especially as it was swiftly banned in over 40 countries and became a staple of the underground VHS trading scene. Presented as a disturbing documentary, Faces of Death mixed real footage with staged scenes depicting graphic deaths, animal slaughter, and human autopsies. The film was marketed as authentic, pushing the boundaries of what audiences were willing or able to stomach. Its grainy realism blurred the line between fact and fiction, and for many viewers, it became a rite of passage to say they had watched it. Censors around the world didn't take kindly to the film's grisly content. In the UK, it landed on the notorious video nasties list and was effectively outlawed for decades. Critics condemned it as exploitative and morally bankrupt, while curious viewers snuck copies into sleepovers and college dorms, fueling its urban legend status. Now, decades later, Faces of Death is freely available on several streaming platforms and has been re-examined as a cultural relic of its time. While still disturbing, it's often viewed through a more analytical lens, part horror, part social experiment, and wholly emblematic of a time when censorship and curiosity collided head-on. Would you dare to revisit it? 5. Possession, 1981. Once banned for its disturbing imagery, now streaming freely for the bold. In the early 1980s, Possession was a film so intense, so unsettling, that it was banned or heavily censored in several countries. Directed by Polish filmmaker Andrzej Zalowski and starring Isabella Gianni and Sam Neill, Possession is not your typical horror movie. It's a psychological and emotional descent into madness, obsession, and monstrous transformation. Set in a divided Berlin, the story follows a woman who leaves her husband without explanation. What begins as a marriage in crisis rapidly spirals into a surreal and disturbing nightmare, blending political tension, personal psychosis, and supernatural horror. Isabella Gianni delivers a harrowing, award-winning performance, most infamously in the subway scene. A moment of pure, terrifying cinematic breakdown. Censors were quick to react. The UK placed Possession on its infamous video nasties list, banning it for its graphic violence, sexual content, and unrelenting psychological intensity. For decades, the film circulated only in cut or bootleg versions. But today, Possession has been fully restored and is available to stream in its uncut glory. Modern viewers now praise it as a misunderstood masterpiece, a fever dream of grief, rage, and transformation. No longer hidden behind censorship, it's free to be experienced as the wild, deeply unsettling vision it always was. Where to watch? Possession is now available on major streaming platforms such as Shudder and Criterion Channel, and in some regions even on YouTube or archive sites. 6. Tenibri, 1982. Directed by Dario Argento. Country, Italy. Original controversy. Banned in the UK video nasty list for extreme violence and gore. Dario Argento's Tenibri is a razor-sharp psychological horror film that slashes into the world of high art and brutal murder. Released in 1982, this blood-soaked giallo masterpiece follows American author Peter Neal as he visits Rome to promote his latest thriller, only to find himself entangled in a real-life killing spree that mirrors the gruesome scenes from his book. With its shocking murders, surreal atmosphere, and stylish cinematography, including one of the most iconic crane shots in horror history, Tenibri shocked censors upon release. The film was quickly pulled from shelves in the UK and added to the notorious video nasties list, a group of films banned for their explicit content during the height of 1980s moral panic. Critics and censors were rattled by its brutal violence, including an infamous axe murder scene and a haunting score by Goblin's Claudio Simonetti. But beneath the gore lies a layered commentary on voyeurism, repression, and the blurred line between creator and creation. Decades later, Tenibri has been reassessed as one of Argento's finest works, now hailed for its brilliance and bold style, rather than condemned for its content. Once banned and censored, it's now freely streaming in high definition on platforms like Shudder and Arrow Player, giving horror fans a chance to witness the once forbidden classic as Argento intended. Now streaming. Uncut and remastered versions available on horror-centric platforms and digital archives. Viewer discretion advised for real this time. 7. The Beyond 1981. Director, Lucio Fulci. Original country, Italy. Genre, horror/supernatural/gore. Once dismissed as pure video nastiness, The Beyond is now considered a surreal horror masterpiece. Directed by Italian gore legend Lucio Fulci, this 1981 cult classic was banned or heavily cut in several countries, including the UK, for its unrelenting violence and graphic imagery. Set in a mysterious Louisiana hotel built over one of the 7 gates of hell, the film blends nightmarish visions with unfiltered brutality, from face-melting acid scenes to eye-gouging shocks. Censors in the 80s couldn't handle Fulci's unflinching style. They saw it as too grotesque, too chaotic, and too disturbing. But decades later, The Beyond is being hailed for what it truly is: a nightmarish fever dream that redefined Italian horror. With its haunting visuals, eerie score, and dreamlike logic, it's now streaming completely uncut, just as Fulci intended. Once buried in controversy, The Beyond has risen again. And this time, nothing is holding it back. 8. The Burning 1981. The scorching tale of a summer camp nightmare. Directed by Tony Maylam and produced by Harvey Weinstein early in his career, The Burning is a slasher film that combines classic campfire horror with graphic violence that once shocked audiences and censors alike. The story centers on Cropsey, a sadistic former summer camp caretaker who suffers a brutal prank gone wrong that leaves him horribly disfigured. After months of recovery, Cropsey escapes from the hospital, hell-bent on revenge against the campers and counselors who wronged him. What follows is a tense, blood-soaked rampage in the serene setting of a summer camp, a stark contrast that amplifies the terror. At its release, The Burning faced heavy censorship, especially in the UK, where its graphic scenes of violence and gore resulted in bans or severe cuts under the infamous video nasties moral panic. Critics were divided. Some praised its suspense and special effects, while others condemned its brutal imagery. Today, however, The Burning stands as a beloved cult classic, praised for its practical effects, tense storytelling, and memorable villain. With modern streaming platforms offering uncensored versions, fans and new viewers alike can experience the film in its original uncut form, no longer shackled by past restrictions. If you're a fan of classic horror with a vintage 80s vibe, The Burning is a must-watch that proves how boundary-pushing films from the era can still captivate and frighten decades later. 9. Shogun Assassin 1980. The banned samurai saga reborn. Originally banned in several countries due to its intense violence and graphic swordplay, Shogun Assassin is a cinematic beast that refuses to be tamed. It's not a typical Hollywood samurai flick, but rather a re-edit mashup of 2 Japanese Kambara films from the Lone Wolf and Cub series, skillfully adapted for Western audiences. The story follows Ogami Ito, a disgraced samurai who becomes an unstoppable assassin after his wife is murdered and his clan betrayed. Alongside his young son Daigoro, he embarks on a brutal quest for vengeance, cutting through waves of enemies with lethal precision. The film's stark, poetic narrative and intense action scenes made it a controversial but unforgettable experience that challenged censorship boards around the world. For years, Shogun Assassin was relegated to underground cult status, its availability limited and often censored to tone down the violence. Today, however, it streams in its full uncut glory, giving viewers an unfiltered look at one of the most visceral samurai tales ever told. Whether you're a fan of classic samurai films or simply crave a revenge story with raw emotion and stylized brutality, Shogun Assassin remains a cornerstone of 80s cinema censorship history, now available for all to see, no restrictions attached. 10. Dead and Buried 1981. Directed by Gary Sherman, Dead and Buried is a chilling horror film that blends small-town mystery with gruesome supernatural elements. When a mysterious stranger arrives in the isolated coastal town of Potter's Bluff, bodies start turning up, but the locals seem strangely unfazed. As the body count rises, the chilling truth unravels. The town's inhabitants are hiding a horrifying secret that ties death and resurrection together in a terrifying cycle. When it first came out, Dead and Buried was banned in several countries due to its graphic scenes and eerie atmosphere. The combination of gore, suspense, and unsettling storylines made it a target for censorship boards trying to shield audiences from what was then considered extreme content. Over the years, Dead and Buried gained a cult following for its unique blend of mystery and horror, but full versions remained hard to find, until recently. Thanks to restored prints and changing attitudes toward horror content, this film is now streaming freely on various platforms, uncut and unrestricted. Horror fans and cinephiles alike can finally experience the film's haunting story and stunning practical effects, just as director Gary Sherman envisioned. 11. The Funhouse, 1981. In the early 1980s, horror cinema was thriving with inventive scares and grisly effects. Among these was The Funhouse, directed by the legendary Tobe Hooper, known for his work on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This film took viewers inside a traveling carnival's eerie funhouse, where a group of teenagers find themselves trapped in a nightmare of shadows, twisted mirrors, and lurking terror. At the time of its release, The Funhouse pushed boundaries with its unsettling atmosphere and graphic scenes of violence that were considered too intense for some censors. The film's depiction of blood and gore, combined with its dark carnival setting, unsettled audiences and critics alike, leading to bans and cuts in various countries, especially in the UK during the height of the video nasties moral panic. For decades, The Funhouse remained a cult classic, circulating in heavily censored forms or hard-to-find releases. But now, thanks to modern reassessments of film violence and changing standards, this eerie carnival horror is freely streaming without restrictions. Viewers can finally experience the full terror and tension as Tobe Hooper intended, immersed in the claustrophobic thrills, the twisted funhouse maze, and the chilling fate awaiting those who dared to enter. Whether you're a longtime fan of 80s horror or a newcomer curious about the era's darker offerings, The Funhouse stands as a chilling reminder of the era's creativity and controversy. And now it's complete. Uncensored version is just a click away. 12. Evil Speak, 1981. Evil Speak tells the story of a lonely, socially awkward cadet named Peter, who starts a new chapter at a strict military academy. Peter is bullied mercilessly by his peers and harassed by his commanding officers. However, when he stumbles upon an ancient satanic book hidden in the school's chapel, everything changes. Using his computer skills, quite innovative for 1981, Peter unlocks the dark secrets of the occult. As he taps into the power of the book through his computer, a series of terrifying events begin to unfold, culminating in a brutal and fiery vengeance against those who tormented him. At the time of its release, Evil Speak was heavily censored and banned in several countries due to its graphic depictions of satanic rituals and intense violence. The unsettling atmosphere combined with the early use of technology as a conduit for supernatural horror made it a lightning rod for controversy. Today, however, Evil Speak stands as a cult classic for horror fans who appreciate its unique blend of early computer horror and supernatural revenge. Thanks to relaxed censorship laws and a growing interest in preserving genre films, Evil Speak is now available to stream uncut, offering new viewers a chance to experience its eerie vibe and chilling story as it was originally intended. Night of the Demon, 1980. In the moss-hung forests of the Pacific Northwest, a team of wildlife researchers, Dr. Brian Marsh and his partner Dr. Jeff Jackson, arrive at the remote town of Jefferson in search of proof that the legendary Sasquatch exists. Whispers of a hulking ape-like creature killing local hunters have circulated for years, but no one has managed to capture it on film. Determined to validate their careers, the duo sets up motion sensor cameras and infrared traps deep in the woods. As night falls, the forest comes alive with unearthly howls. Their cameras catch fleeting glimpses. Massive footprints in the mud, branches snapped as if by tremendous force, and a pair of glowing, intelligent eyes watching from the darkness. When Dr. Jackson is gruesomely torn apart in his tent, Marsh realizes this isn't an animal. They are facing an ancient, calculating predator. Driven by terror and scientific obsession, Marsh rigs a final trap. A high-tension cable strung between two massive pines, baited with fresh venison. Under a blood-red moon, the creature springs the trap, snapping the cable around its neck, and in that instant Marsh fires the tranquilizer. The beast collapses with an earth-shaking roar. As dawn breaks, Marsh approaches the fallen giant, only to discover it's not quite dead. In a sudden violent lunge, it drags him deep into the forest, leaving only his camera and the haunting footage as evidence of what truly lurks beyond civilization's edge. Censorship and resurrection. Upon its 1980 release, Night of the Demon was seized by British authorities for excessive violence, earning a spot on the original video nasties list. Graphic gore, limbs crushed beneath massive fists, streams of blood sprayed against canvas tents, made it one of the most notorious Bigfoot horrors of its era. For decades, the film circulated only in heavily edited form, with entire death scenes excised. Today, however, Night of the Demon has been fully restored and is available to stream without restrictions on several legal platforms, including Shudder and Tubi. Viewers can finally witness the film in its uncut glory, every nerve-shredding growl, every crack of bone, and the ultimate question that lingers after the credits: is mankind the hunter or the hunted? 14. Inferno 1980. From the visionary Italian director Dario Argento comes Inferno, the enigmatic second chapter in his Three Mothers trilogy, following the cult classic Suspiria. Known for his signature blend of surreal horror, vibrant colors, and haunting soundscapes, Argento crafted Inferno as a mysterious and atmospheric descent into supernatural terror. Initially, Inferno encountered resistance from censors worldwide due to its intense and sometimes disturbing imagery. The film's unsettling atmosphere, scenes of ritualistic horror, and graphic moments of violence pushed many boundaries of what was acceptable at the time. Some scenes were trimmed or altered in various markets, limiting the film's full, chilling impact. However, over the decades, appreciation for Argento's artistic style and horror vision grew. As film preservation and fan demand surged, the full, uncensored version of Inferno was restored and released across various platforms. Now modern viewers can stream Inferno in its original glory, an immersive, eerie journey through a shadowy New York City haunted by ancient evils. This uncensored access lets fans and new audiences alike experience the film's intricate plot of mysterious deaths, cryptic symbols, and dark secrets surrounding the Three Mothers, ancient witches whose power threatens to engulf the world in darkness. Inferno's restoration is a testament to how once censored art can be reclaimed and appreciated anew. It stands as a prime example of 80s horror that defied norms and still holds a unique, mesmerizing power today. Where to watch? Internet Archive. A vast collection of films, including many from the 80s, is available for free streaming. And #X20. YouTube. Several full-length 80s movies are available on YouTube. Please note that availability may vary based on your location and local regulations. Always ensure you're accessing content through legal and authorized platforms. Thanks for watching our countdown of 14 censored 80s movies now streaming without restrictions. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on more awesome content like this. We want to hear from you. Which of these movies caught your interest the most? Or is there another 80s cult classic you think should be on the list? Drop your favorite titles and thoughts down in the comment box below. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of film with Globewise Entertainment. See you in the next video.